Join Midtown Houston for National Night Out on Tuesday, October 7th from 5 to 7:30 p.m. at Bagby Park. This free community event brings neighbors, families, and local law enforcement together to strengthen relationships and promote public safety. There's nothing like connecting with your neighbors while enjoying free food, including James Coney Island hot dogs, mini bun cakes from the Baker's Man, and gelato cups from Constantine. They'll also have tons of games and activities. Head to midtownhouston.com and under Visit and Explore, you can save your spot and celebrate a safer, more connected community. Eureka Day at Fourth Wall Theater Company in Sawyer Yards is now running until October 11th. This ultra-relevant, hilarious play about debate, agreement, and finding consensus in today's world is a must-see, especially in the Fourth Wall Theater Company's intimate 100-seat black box. The play won big on Broadway this year with the 2025 Tony Award for Best Revival. Tickets start at just $39, plus the theater offers pay-what-you-will nights and other discounts. Visit fourthwalltheaterco.com to get your tickets today. Today on CityCast Houston, a new safety initiative is making its way to Houston, but do we actually need it? Plus, are conservatives, including state leaders from Texas, about to boycott the NFL again? It's the end of the week, so let's break down those stories and more with Maggie Gordon of Straight Arrow News. It's Friday, October 3rd. I'm Rihil Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, Maggie, what's up? Welcome back. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. It's really good to be here. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I want to start with Greg Abbott's surprise press conference on public safety. So there's this new safety initiative that he is focusing on, which is all about stopping repeat violent offenders across Houston, which on the surface, that's a good thing. Although violent crimes have dropped 22% since last year, so there is that little caveat right there. The plan includes more patrolling in high crime neighborhoods with a task force featuring DPS troopers, special agents, Texas Rangers, and local law enforcement. Now, this press conference is catching a lot of headlines because Governor Abbott dropped into Houston and said, look, here's what we're doing. And there were notable figures missing from this press conference, including Judge Hidalgo, Mayor Whitmire, who was out of town, and HPD Chief Noe Diaz was not there either. So Maggie, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Like, is this a legit concern, or is Abbott winning political points?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, violent crime in Houston is down. Like, that's not an opinion. That's a fact backed up by data. And there are some neighborhoods where there is a little bit of crime increasing, but like they're really small pockets. And even within those neighborhoods, we don't know if that's being done because of what is being targeted, he says, which is repeat offenders, right? So I think there's a lot there that feels a lot more like speculation than data-based decision making.
It really does. And 55% of violent crimes in the city involve individuals with prior criminal records. That doesn't mean they were violent criminals, but they did have some sort of criminal record, right? And I get it. This is a concern for a lot of people, even though, again, violent crime is down since last year. And this also sparked a lot of debate on Reddit. We love our friends at Reddit. And a lot of Redditors felt like this was a move where Governor Abbott is trying to win points with President Trump and maybe opens the door for the National Guard to come to Houston and repeat a tactic that President Trump has done in other cities across the nation. So the speculation is running wild right now. Like, what is actually going on?
And maybe you've seen something that I haven't, but it sounds as though a lot of this is going to be pointed toward neighborhoods. We're being told there are going to be neighborhoods that will have like a huge number of law enforcement come in. Did you see what neighborhoods those were? Because I haven't. And so I am wondering, are these the neighborhoods, those small pockets of places where perhaps you have seen an uptick of crime? Are those the neighborhoods? Or is this, sort of like you said, perhaps an excuse to get into some of Houston's neighborhoods, and why?
Yeah, I didn't see those exact neighborhoods, Maggie, and I am curious to see which ones they are. But even if violent crimes are up in those neighborhoods, does it warrant a task force? can local officials handle this, right? Especially as local law enforcement is getting so many raises, whether it be HPD, the constables. This has been a big focus of Mayor Whitmire's public safety, public safety, public safety. Even though as he was going into office, the numbers were going down. Why can't our local officials just handle this, right? And now all eyes are on Houston for this. It gives the perception nationally and statewide that there is a major crime issue in Houston. And that sucks. And that's not what's happening.
No, and that's a really good point, too, about the way that we fund our public safety. Remember, a few weeks ago, we were talking about the fact that, gosh, I don't have the figure in front of me, but it was something like for every dollar we spend on libraries here in Houston, it was like $13 or something like that on police. It's not that we don't have a well-funded HPD. So I would like somebody to sort of explain to me in a much more clear way why we need this right now and what this is actually looking to do.
Yeah, that is a great point right there. I do want to offer an update real quickly on another story that we've been watching. Last week, we talked about the total number of Bayou deaths in the city of Houston, and we have a new number now for 2025. There have been 22 bodies found in bayous across the Houston area. This doesn't include extended areas, all right? This is just the Houston area. And this is on the surface very shocking. But in 2024, there were 24 bodies found. And I think the reason this is so shocking is because in a span of about a week, there were 6 bodies found. And on TikTok, the rumors just started running out of control. And that really created a lot of confusion.
And I think there's not been a really great effort to get a lot of the information out, right? And that's when you see speculation literally go viral on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, where people are like, why aren't they saying this? Well, we don't know this. And this is a situation in which I think any information that the city that officials have, just tell people, because in my thought, yes, it's actually a very similar number to what it was last year. So statistically speaking, I don't think it's pointing to there is a serial killer on the loose. But my goodness, if there is information out there that is not being shared with people that could help them sort of make that informed decision, I think that would really help. My husband and I were talking about this because it is fascinating, and it's sort of the cultural zeitgeist of the city right now. Everybody's talking about this. Like, tell us the names and ages and sort of demographic profiles of people, because so many people are like true crime podcast listeners. You get swept up in it, and you're like, oh, the numbers say this, but if we had more information, if we knew whether this is the kind of thing where the bodies being found sort of had like demographic similarities and stuff like that, I think that would help kind of dispel whether this could contain the patterns of what is traditionally thought of as a serial killer.
So the Houston Chronicle put out a list after doing their own investigation on who these people are, and only 6 have been examined by the medical examiner's office. So there's still a lot of questions out there. And I do want to bring up this really important part of Joy Sowing's column that she wrote this week on the Bayou deaths, where she said, when people are left without answers, they fill in the blanks with their own theories, construct their own narratives. Their theories become the rumors that feel true. And that's why information is important. So important.
Now, and it's one of those things where, gosh, can I say I confidently believe that's not what's happening? No, I don't think I can say that. I am cautiously optimistic that's not what's happening. I don't think the statistics are so out of the norm that it's screaming we have a serial killer. But like, was it last week? I think there was, Mayor Whitmire had a press conference where he was saying, we don't have a serial killer. We don't have a serial killer. And I was talking to somebody about it in conversation. They're like, yeah, it's like that opening montage of every serial killer movie where it's just public officials saying, that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. And so there's this part of me that's like, I really don't think that's what's happening, but my goodness, do I not want to eat my words in a year or two? You know what I mean?
I know. And you're not the only one that shares this sentiment. Our newsletter readers were asked about this. Brooke Lewis, our editor, who's fantastic, asked readers like, hey, how do you feel about what is going on with the Bayou right now? And one listener said the exact same thing. It would be appreciated to understand why the mayor asserts there is no pattern or link. Let the public hear the facts, and we can then make our own informed decisions. Another reader had this really important quote. She said, I absolutely avoid the Bayou trails. I used to only go during the daytime, but everything that has happened this past year has completely turned me away. As a woman in my mid 20s, things have gotten bad enough to make me consider carrying for the first time in my life. It's very disheartening to feel unsafe when trying to do something as simple as going for a walk. So, all of these rumors, the lack of information is changing people's habits and how they feel about doing something as simple as walking around the bayous.
That makes me really sad. I lived on Buffalo Bayou for a few years, and I've spent some of my favorite moments in Houston walking along the banks of Buffalo Bayou. And I don't know if we still had that apartment, if I'd go out and do that this afternoon or this
Yeah.
evening. But like, gosh, I want people to feel as though they can, because our bayous, they're the central artery of our
Yeah.
city, right? Like
Bayou
they pump
City.
to the heart of Houston, right?
Yeah, they are the arteries or the veins, all those terms we hear. We are Bayou City, and we shouldn't be so scared of them. Should always be aware and be smart and don't swim in them. I saw some TikTokers swimming in it. Ugh, no, thank you. No, thank you. Please don't.
I used to walk by this one guy with a fishing pole, and I'd be like, "Oh my goodness!" I was just always afraid. You know
Yeah.
that three-eyed fish from The Simpsons?
Yes.
I always thought that's what he was going to catch in there.
Yeah. Oh, man. Another big story that everyone's talking about, the government shutdown. And let's talk about how it's impacting Houston. Things are so fluid. It started earlier this week on Wednesday. The reason I want to bring this up is because it's still at a standstill as of right now. And this affects 230,000 government employees across Texas, including 36,000 federal workers right here in H-Town. Here are some of the effects, Maggie. The biggest question is, what is going to happen with TSA? My wife was asking me, we're getting ready for a trip. She's like, hey, should we be traveling? And I told her, no, everything is fine. Essential workers such as TSA, air traffic controllers will continue to work. Also, Medicare and the payment of Social Security checks will continue. Military bases and their operations deemed essential to the security of the country continue to function as well. Postal Service will continue to work.
There's also like 3,000 civil servants who work at Johnson Space Center. Like
Mhm.
we're the Bayou City, but we're also Space City,
Yeah.
right? And those are just the federal employees. There's also a lot of contractors who might not have a lot of work right now. Their contracts might not being funded. So when you think about like our history and our culture as an aerospace city, there are some people who are being deemed essential at NASA. I know the people who are working on like lunar programs are being called to work. They're being deemed essential. But there are a lot of people right now who are furloughed. There are a lot of people who are working for however long this takes and will get paid after, which not everybody can do. Like, does
Yeah.
anybody want to raise hands of like who actually needs their paycheck to arrive like, in a
Yes.
timely fashion, right? It's something that people need and people have not budgeted for. So I think there are going to be some effects from this, but it remains to be seen. Is this going to be a 2-day shutdown, a 2-week shutdown? What's it going to look like? And then we'll have that sense of how hard it's going to be for some of these folks.
Yeah, we're not sure. And again, that paycheck, who's getting paid, who's going to get furloughed, who's going to get that paycheck later, it all depends on the position. And that is very complicated. So I'll drop the link in our show notes if you do want to learn more about it. One other thing, federal services like food safety and environmental inspections will stop during the shutdown. And why is that important? Because, hello, we're Houston. There are so many refineries in our area. We need environmental inspections, and those services will stop until a funding bill is passed or the government is back up and running, whatever the case may be. This is sad to see because it impacts us. Pollution impacts us. And when these companies go unchecked, we don't know what happens.
Yeah, the Chronicle actually on Thursday had a really good investigation they published by Rebecca Ward about environmental concerns in the Sedegast neighborhood, which is actually pretty close to where I live. It's in the eastern part of the city, and it's really in the shadow of a lot of our industrial buildings and infrastructure. And there was this one woman in the story who talks about when she comes home, she has to mop and sweep like soot out of her house
What?
like constantly. And so when you were talking about that, I was like, Okay. Well, as long as this is shut down, so who's going to be watching
Yeah.
that, right? Who's going to be making sure that this woman, her life isn't going to get worse than it sounds like it already is?
Yeah, it's just so sad to hear. And hopefully the government is back up and we get these environmental inspections and people are back to work and we can all just move on. And hopefully that happens very soon. Okay, Maggie, when we get back, let's talk about affordability from a lens that is often overlooked. Fall in love with downtown Houston this season. Grab your blanket and your bingo card for Blanket Bingo, one of the city's favorite fall traditions. Or cozy up under the stars for outdoor movie nights featuring everything from Wicked to Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my personal favorites. Need to shake off those pumpkin spice lattes? Downtown Houston has free fitness in the park, yoga, hip-hop dance, and breathwork at Trudley and Market Square Park to keep you moving. And yes, even your four-legged friends get their own Yappy Hour Paw Tea. And mark your calendar, Dia de los Muertos takes over downtown with live music, art, kids activities, and a glowing community ofrenda. Plus a family screening of Coco that will give you all the feels. The weather is nice, so it's time to make this season unforgettable. Plan your downtown adventure with your friends and family at downtownhouston.org. Downtown Houston, get energized and revived. It's time for the Bayou City Art Festival in Memorial Park, all weekend long from October 10th through the 12th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Houston's iconic art festival will transform Memorial Park into a vibrant outdoor art gallery and interactive experience while showcasing the works of more than 250 artists. There's so much to do, including purchasing one-of-a-kind art, jewelry, functional art, and so much more at all price levels. And there's more than just art. You can enjoy live entertainment, food trucks, an active imagination zone for guests of all ages, and a craft beer and wine garden. Early bird tickets are $18 for adults and $5 for children ages 6 through 12 at BayouCityArtFestival.com. But act fast because adult tickets purchased after October 1st are $20, and physical tickets will not be sold at the gate, so grab yours in advance online. You can also enjoy the festival in their VIP hospitality lounge with VIP tickets. Again, to find out more and get tickets, go to BayouCityArtFestival.com. All right, Maggie, you had this very interesting story about affordability, and we always talk about it here in the city of Houston. It is really hard right now for people across the city, across the nation, right? Things are just not affordable. But you wanted to focus on something that is forgotten about and look at this through a different lens.
Yeah, so there was a really interesting story earlier this week in The Economist that they used what they called a Carrie Bradshaw index, which I think is just really interesting, right? Carrie Bradshaw, she's that Sex and the City character, and she lived alone. Living alone is something that was such a growing part of the millennial culture. And even with Gen Z, you see a much larger percentage of people living alone than in previous generations. Lots of reasons for that, including the fact that largely young adults today don't get married at the age of 22. And so you have more of these sort of like single alone years. But this Carrie Bradshaw index, it looks at cities across the country to see, is that achievable and how is that changing? And The Economist has been doing this for several years. And this year, one of the things that they noted is among the places where it went from hitting the metrics that make it, according to their qualifications, affordable to live by yourself, to no longer hitting those metrics, to becoming literally unaffordable, according to those
Wow.
metrics. Houston. And it doesn't surprise me. You know, one of the very last things that I did when I was working at the Houston Landing was I pulled data for all of the like multi-family residential buildings that got certificates of occupancy in the last few years. And I went to them. I knocked on the doors. I looked at them and I found that over half of those new buildings going up are marketed as luxury, right? So we talk
Yeah.
about Houston as this affordable place, but we do not have housing coming online that is marketed not as quote unquote affordable housing as defined by the government, but as housing that is affordable. We have been building housing stock here that is marketed as luxury. And because of that, it's no longer actually affordable for people who want to live by themselves, economically average Americans who want to live by themselves, to be able to do that. And I think that's something that could actually sort of change the foundational structure and the life experiences of the young adults here in the city.
Yeah, why would young adults want to live here if they can't afford it or if it's paycheck to paycheck and they have a good job? They can't, because that number, that average salary number is around 63,000 roughly, right? Give or take a few thousand depending on the city. If you're making that much, maybe this is just me being old and get off my lawn. That should deem a very comfortable life in the city of Houston, living in a apartment. Maybe you're renting a house, whatever that may be, but even that is just not enough now. And that, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, this is not people making $60,000 a year saying, I want to live alone in a 4-bedroom house in Timber Grove, right? This is people saying, I want to live in a studio apartment. I have lived in a studio apartment.
Yeah.
That is not luxury. You know what I mean? When like your bed is your couch and also sometimes where you eat breakfast, right?
Mhm.
Like this is when that becomes unaffordable. How are you going to attract that young class of workers, right? To start their
Yeah.
lives here and then
Keep it
stay,
here.
hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, like stay here and grow with the city as a city grows as well. Like losing that population could be devastating for the city. And I'm glad you brought up those luxury apartments. Everything has to be luxury now. And that just feels like a way to mark it up. It's crazy. Like, yeah, you want better apartments, you want better housing. That is a beautiful thing. Give people more, but you just slap on a luxury tag, and all of a sudden, your rent is $1,400, 1,500,
Oh, up, up,
1,600
up,
up.
buddy.
Like, what
Up.
is it?
Yes.
Like
I
that
mean, you're talking at least
$1,800?
15
Like,
for
wow.
like a studio or a 1-bedroom. Yeah, in the Loop. And like, I am trying to do the math right now of what that would have done to me when I had like just started in my career. And
Oh,
I don't think I had that before taxes. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, it
It's
was
like
impossible.
now I don't have gas to get to work in my 30-year-old car, I guess. Who is going to be able to do that when they're young and starting out? And
Mhm,
that's what I love so much about Houston is our welcoming patterns, the way that we pull people in and then we help each other, we build each other, we grow. And then like people like me who just moved here young say, I'm never leaving this place. But you know, if the economic landscape looked like this when I came here younger with no friends, no family, had
mhm.
to live alone, I don't know how that would have shifted my entire life that I've lived since then.
Such a good point. Such a good point. I want to get to my overlooked story. I'm just going to jump into it. I was really excited when Bad Bunny was announced as the Super Bowl halftime performer last weekend. And look, I'm a huge fan. I can't wait. This is going to be so exciting. And there was a lot of outrage nationally, locally, state level, all of that. And I thought we had all moved on. But now our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, he took to X and called for Jason Aldean to perform, who is a country performer, and really like sparked this whole debate again up about Bad Bunny performing. And it is just getting out of hand. Like, what are we doing? Why is Ken Paxton tweeting about this? Doesn't he have bigger things to worry about?
And now I'm going to sound like I'm saying get off my lawn. But didn't there used to be a time where you could be like, this isn't my favorite performer, but I'm happy that someone else is happy. You know, it's like how people get upset Taylor Swift is in the stands for a Kansas City game, where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, this 3 seconds does not check every box for you. That does not mean it's not making other people happy and that what they like doesn't matter. Like that's American, right? Is
Yeah.
saying like we are all here and we can all share an experience. Like that's, I don't know.
There were so many conservative voices saying, what is the NFL doing? It's time to boycott them. We're not going to watch the Super Bowl. But these are the same voices that were boycotting the NFL and said that they would never watch the NFL again when Colin Kaepernick was taking a knee during the national anthem. He was a quarterback for the 49ers. That created so much discussion and debate about free speech. But I thought y'all stopped watching. So who cares if Bad Bunny's performing in the Super Bowl? That's where I'm confused. Like, Y'all say y'all aren't watching the NFL, but here you are watching the NFL. For me, if Morgan Wallen was announced as a performer, he's super outspoken. He's a country musician. If he was announced, you know what I would do? I wouldn't care. I don't listen to him. And guess what I'll do during the Super Bowl halftime show? I'll still watch. I'm going to enjoy it. Or I would just move on with my life. We have other things to worry about, like affordability. Why do we care who performs? And why are state leaders caring? This is so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, if it was somebody that I didn't care to watch, which has happened over the years, okay, I'm going to go into the kitchen and pull out more chicken wings. Like, I have things I can do with that time, right? It's not like they don't do extensive marketing for this kind of thing. Do you think there are only 3 people in the country who want to see this performer in the Super Bowl halftime show? Like, that's just not how it works, right? And so just find something else to do in those few minutes and do not take us down a tantrum about it.
We just have too much free time in Texas, I guess. We have too much free time. Like, what are we doing? Just relax. I'll be watching Maggie again. I'm a Bad Bunny fan. This is going to be exciting. It's going to be a good halftime show. So I can't wait. I'm counting down. And the Outrage is going to be fantastic on the day of. So I will be watching that. Like, I want to see people freak out. I love just watching and seeing how ridiculous things could get. When we get back, let's do our moments of joy. Hey Houston, this fall, PhotoFest is presenting 25 years of creativity and collaboration with Houston artists Hillerbrand and Magsman. Their exhibition, Nothing is Precious, Everything is Game, is on view October 8th through November 22nd at Silver Street Studios. This husband and wife artist team turns everyday things like household items, family rituals, and even pieces from their own home into photographs, videos, and sculptures that are both surprising and playful. It's all about transforming the ordinary into something extraordinary. And there's more than just art on the walls. From an artist reception to live performances, a bingo night, and a family day, there are many ways for you to connect with the art. Come experience Nothing is Precious, Everything is Game in person. Learn more at photofest.org. That's FOTO fest.org. It's that time of year again when the best of aviation, past and present, takes to the skies over Houston in the Wings Over Houston Air Show. Returning to Ellington Field from October 18th through the 19th, this Texas tradition has something for everyone. Wings Over Houston is a family-friendly event that blends military history and world-class aviation, providing hours of aerial performances, vintage plane displays, and interactive areas for children and, yes, adults too. This year's show marks the return of the United States Air Force Thunderbirds, who leave audiences in awe at their incredible capabilities of the F-16 Fighting Falcon. And in a rare appearance, the last 2 airworthy B-29 bombers will fly together, commemorating the pivotal role they played 80 years ago to end World War II. Talk about a glimpse into history. Grab your tickets now at wingsoverhouston.com with promo code CCWOH25. That's CCWOH25. And don't forget to join the insider list for even more savings. We'll see you there. All right, Maggie, it is time for our moments of joy. What made you happy this week?
Look, I know it's still like basically 90 degrees a lot of the time, but in the mornings, there is this perfect 45 minutes when I am able to go out and take a walk and pretend that it is actually fall. And this weekend, I told you this before, I have 3 kids, ages 3 and under. We got some tiny tots in our family, and we are planning to go to Discovery Green they're having like these huge pumpkin festivals. And so I'm excited to feel fall come to Houston. It's been great.
Yeah, hopefully you're not going between the hours of 2 and 5 because it doesn't feel like fall at that time. It's still hot. It is still
Texas.
Hot. Yeah, it's still Texas. But that moment in the morning where it does feel cool, the humidity is kind of low. It's still there, but it's kind of low. Yeah, it's nice. It's like, all right, we made it through the summer and we can exhale for 45 minutes before it gets really hot again. So I'm glad you get a chance to do that. And another thing that people could be doing is going to a dog park. So I want to offer an update for my moment of joy. On Tuesday, we talked about this new dog park in the East End called Zoomies. And it was being labeled as an act of gentrification because this is a members only dog park. It has a lot of upscale amenities, quote unquote, right? But this is a really cool concept. I thought it was really nice to hear that. And the co-founder, Rami, is a listener of CityCast Houston. He heard us talk about it and he sent us a voicemail explaining some of the things that people are accusing him of in terms of gentrification. And here is Rami. So I want to offer this update on the Zoomies story we've been following.
Hi, Raheel and CityCast Houston fans. This is Rami, co-founder of Zoomies Dog Park. It was great hearing Zoomies on the podcast on the last show, and you really caught the essence of Zoomies. I'm still recovering from a state of mini shock after an Instagram comment about dog gentrification spiraled to be an article on the Houston Cron, and then next it was on my favorite podcast. What's next? CNN? Fox News? I think I'm the first half Egyptian, half Filipino immigrant to be accused of that. I'm an immigrant and I wasn't born in Houston, but I chose Houston. And all I can do is express my love for the city by creating a space that brings together dog-loving people. And I'm very lucky to have found this community here in the Second Ward and all around Houston.
Rami, thank you so much for sending that in. It is so nice to hear that you aren't fazed by these comments of gentrification. He is proud to be in that community as a business owner. But yeah, that was a funny story to me. Like, we're really talking about gentrification because of a dog park, Maggie.
I live nearby. I know exactly what dog park you're talking about, so I'm glad to know more about it now.
I love that. Maybe I'll give you my old dog, Bane. He's 13 years old. You can take him, okay? Because he is a cranky old man. You can deal with him and your tots, okay? Your 3 kids. That's going to be my gift to you, is another person to worry about, the little dog. All right, I want to end with a big shout out to our newest CityCast Houston neighbor, Carol B. She became a neighbor, and you can as well for just $10 a month. This really helps us to continue making the show that you love and the newsletter that you love to read. You get some really cool perks like ad-free listening. You get a shout out right here on CityCast Houston. You can also shout out a business or a charity here in the Houston area when you sign up. So please do it right now. You can sign up at membership.citycast.fm for just $10 a month. You get to support the show and newsletter that you love. Maggie, thank you so much for joining me today on CityCast Houston, and enjoy your weekend with all the pumpkins in Discovery Green.
Yeah, thanks so much. I always love coming and chatting with you guys.
That was Maggie Gordon. She's a senior storytelling editor at Straight Arrow News. Learn more about the stories we talked about today with the links in our show notes. Hey, a big thank you to everyone who shared an episode of CityCast Houston with friends this week. And if you haven't done so yet, please help us out by sharing today's episode with 3 friends who love Bad Bunny. Looking for something to do this weekend? We have so many events listed in our newsletter at houston.citycast.fm. Please check them out. That will do it for this week here on CityCast Houston. Our producer is Carleon Jones. Our newsletter editor is Brooke Lewis. Our interim executive producer is Lizzie Goldsmith. And I'm your host, Raheel Ramzanali. Our music is by the band All the Kimonos, with additional music courtesy of Duke Harrington, Isola James, and Grip City Cronies via epidemicsound.com. Plus Simon the Jester, Steve Michaels, and DJ Deweese from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. We'll be back on Monday to learn what's next for our historic 18th Congressional District and why it should matter to all Houstonians. Thank you for listening and enjoy your weekend.